The sound of glass groaning against rubber brought Alex Ortega's head up from under the hood of Mrs. Henderson's ancient Volvo. Rain pelted the parking lot of Riverside Elementary School as he watched a sleek silver Audi struggling against nature, its driver frantically pressing a button while the passenger window remained stubbornly jammed halfway down, allowing sheets of water to soak the luxurious interior. Alex wiped his greasy hands on a rag and jogged over, the familiar weight of responsibility momentarily lifted from his shoulders by the simple opportunity to help someone else with their problems instead of his own. "Need a hand," he called, squinting through the downpour. The woman inside the car looked up, startled. Her caramel-colored hair was pulled back in a neat bun, though several strands had escaped and now clung to her flushed cheeks. Designer sunglasses sat uselessly on the dashboard as rainwater continued to splash onto expensive-looking leather seats. "This stupid window," she said, frustration evident in her voice. "It was working fine this morning." Alex nodded, already assessing the situation. "Mind if I take a look? I'm pretty good with cars." "Please," she said, relief washing over her face. "I'd be incredibly grateful." Alex knelt beside the door, sheltering the interior as best he could with his broad shoulders while rain soaked through his already damp work shirt. He peered at the window mechanism, noticing immediately that the rubber seal had detached and jammed the glass. "I'm Alex, by the way." "Alex Ortega," he offered, reaching carefully inside to manipulate the window track. "Fiona Gardiner," she replied, watching his skilled hands work with obvious curiosity. "Do you work at the school?" Alex shook his head, droplets flying from his dark hair. "Just picking up my daughter, Emma. She's in 2nd grade. I'm a mechanic at Riverdale Auto." He gently coaxed the rubber seal back into place, then pressed the window button. "Try it now." Fiona pressed the button, and the window smoothly rose into place with a satisfying thunk. "You're a miracle worker," she said, genuine gratitude lighting up her face. For the first time, Alex noticed her eyes a warm hazel that seemed to shift colors even in the dim light of the rainy afternoon. "Just a simple fix," he said, suddenly self-conscious of his oil-stained jeans and worn work boots. Everything about this woman screamed money, from her perfectly manicured nails to the luxury car she drove. The seal just needed to be guided back into the track. "Well, you saved my interior from complete ruin, so thank you." She smiled, and Alex felt an unexpected flutter in his chest. "Are you waiting for your daughter now?" Alex nodded, glancing at his watch. "Bell rings in about 5 minutes. I managed to get off work early today to pick her up instead of having her go to after-school care." "That's nice," Fiona said, her expression softening. "I'm actually here to meet with the principal about a donation project." Of course she was. Women like her didn't have children at Riverside Elementary. The school served a mostly working-class neighborhood, not the type that drove Audis and wore what Alex guessed were very expensive, if understated, clothes. "Principal Ramirez is great," Alex offered. "She's really dedicated to the kids." The school bell rang and Alex straightened up, his back protesting after a long day hunched over engines. "That's my cue. Nice meeting you, Fiona. Glad I could help." "Wait," Fiona called as he started to turn away. She rummaged in her purse and pulled out a business card. "Please, let me give you something for your time." Alex's pride stiffened his spine. "No need, just being neighborly." He managed a smile despite the twinge of embarrassment. He didn't need charity, especially not in front of the school where Emma might see. "At least take my card," she insisted, pressing it into his hand. "My car's due for a service anyway. Maybe I could bring it to your garage." Alex glanced down at the card. "Gardiner Innovations," it read, with Fiona's name followed by CEO in elegant script. His eyebrows rose involuntarily. "Not just rich, then successful." "Sure," he said, pocketing the card. "We're on 5th and Main. Not as fancy as the dealership, but we do honest work." "I prefer honest to fancy," she replied with a smile that seemed to suggest she meant it. The school doors burst open and children streamed out. Alex spotted Emma immediately, her purple backpack bouncing as she raced toward him, pigtails flying. "Daddy," she called, launching herself into his arms. At 7 years old, she was already getting too big for him to catch her like this, but Alex couldn't bring himself to stop their ritual. "Hey, princess," he said, setting her down and taking her backpack. "How was school? We did science experiments with bubbles and I made the biggest one." Emma's eyes shone with excitement before shifting curiously to the silver Audi. "Who's that lady?" Alex turned, surprised to see Fiona watching them with an expression he couldn't quite place. "Just someone who needed help with her car window," he explained. "Say hello to Miss Gardiner." Emma gave a little wave. "Hi, Miss Gardiner, do you like bubbles?" Fiona laughed, a genuine sound that made something warm unfurl in Alex's chest. "I love bubbles, actually. I used to make bubble solution with my dad when I was about your age." "Really?" Emma's eyes widened. "Dad, can we make bubble solution at home?" "Sure, kiddo, we'll look up a recipe tonight." Alex glanced at his watch again. "We better get going. I promised Mrs. Lopez we'd walk her dog while she's visiting her sister, remember?" Emma nodded seriously. "Baxter gets sad if he doesn't get his walk." Alex looked back at Fiona. "It was nice meeting you, Miss Gardiner." "Good luck with your donation project." "Thank you," she said, her eyes lingering on him. "I hope to see you again, Alex." As they walked away, Emma's small hand in his, Alex couldn't help but glance back. Through the rain-streaked window of the Audi, he could see Fiona watching them go, her expression thoughtful. He doubted their paths would cross again. Their worlds were clearly too different, but the warmth of her smile stayed with him as he and Emma splashed through puddles on their way home. 3 days later, Alex was elbow-deep in a transmission when Jake, the shop's receptionist, called him to the front desk. "Someone's here to see you specifically," Jake said, eyebrows waggling suggestively. "Driving an Audi that costs more than I'll make in 5 years." Alex wiped his hands on a shop rag as he walked to the reception area, and stopped short when he saw Fiona Gardiner standing there in a tailored blazer and jeans that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Her hair was down today, falling in soft waves around her shoulders, and she looked both out of place and completely at ease in the gritty garage. "Miss Gardiner," he said, surprised, "you actually came." "I told you I needed a service," she replied with a smile, "and please call me Fiona." "Right. Well, we can definitely take care of that for you." Alex shifted uncomfortably, aware of his grimy coveralls and the other mechanics openly staring. "Jake can get your information and set up an appointment." "Actually," Fiona said, lowering her voice, "I was hoping to talk to you about something else too. Do you have a minute?" Curiosity piqued, Alex glanced at the clock. "I'm due for a lunch break. There's a diner across the street if you don't mind talking there." "Perfect," she said, seeming genuinely pleased by the suggestion. 10 minutes later, they were seated in a booth at Mel's diner, Alex having quickly cleaned up and changed into the spare t-shirt he kept in his locker. Fiona looked at the laminated menu with what appeared to be genuine interest rather than the disdain he might have expected. "They make a great tuna melt," Alex offered, then immediately wondered if women like Fiona Gardiner even ate tuna melts. "Sold," she said, setting down the menu. "And maybe a chocolate milkshake. This seems like a proper milkshake kind of place." Alex relaxed slightly. "Definitely. Emma always says their milkshakes are worth the brain freeze." After they ordered, Fiona folded her hands on the table. "So I wanted to talk to you about the donation project at Riverside." "Oh," Alex sipped his water, curious. "My company is establishing a STEM initiative for underserved schools. We're providing equipment, curriculum resources, and funding for after-school programs." Her eyes lit up as she spoke, passion evident in every word. "The thing is, we need parent involvement to make it sustainable. Principal Ramirez mentioned you're one of the most reliable parent volunteers despite your work schedule." Alex felt a flush of pride mixed with embarrassment. "I do what I can. Emma's education is important to me. She also mentioned you have quite a knack for explaining mechanical concepts to kids. Apparently, your presentation on simple machines last year was a big hit." Alex chuckled, remembering the contraptions he'd built from spare parts to demonstrate levers, pulleys, and wheels. "The kids seem to enjoy it. Would you be interested in helping with our Makerspace program? It would be paid, of course. We need parents who can commit to running weekly workshops after the initial setup." Alex stared at her, taken aback. "You're offering me a job, a part-time position," Fiona clarified as their food arrived. teaching kids basic engineering concepts through hands-on projects. It would be after school hours, maybe 6-8 hours a week. Alex's mind raced. Extra income would be a godsend, especially with Emma's braces coming up next year, but the timing worried him. "I'm already juggling my schedule at the garage to be there for Emma," he admitted. "The workshops would run while Emma is in the program too," Fiona explained. "She'd be learning alongside the other kids, and we're flexible on which days you could teach." Alex took a bite of his sandwich, buying time to think. The opportunity sounded too good to be true. "Why me?" "I'm sure there are plenty of qualified people you could hire." Fiona sipped her milkshake before answering. "Because teaching isn't just about qualifications. It's about connecting with kids, making complex ideas accessible, and being passionate about what you're sharing." She paused. "Principal Ramirez says you have all three in spades." The sincerity in her voice made Alex's chest tighten. It had been a long time since anyone besides Emma had believed in him this way. "I'd need to think about it," he said finally. "Talk it over with Emma." "Of course," Fiona said. "There's no rush. The program won't launch until next month." Their conversation drifted to other topics: Emma's love of science, Alex's journey into mechanics, Fiona's company, and its focus on educational technology. She listened when he spoke, really listened, asking thoughtful questions about his work and his daughter. There was none of the condescension he might have expected from someone in her position. By the time they finished lunch, Alex found himself reluctant for their meeting to end. There was something refreshing about Fiona, a directness combined with genuine warmth that drew him in despite his initial wariness. "Thank you for lunch," Fiona said as they walked back to the garage, "and for considering the program." "Thank you for the opportunity," Alex replied. "And for choosing our shop for your car. I promise we'll take good care of it." Fiona smiled, the afternoon sun catching golden highlights in her hair. "I know you will. You strike me as someone who takes care with everything that matters." Their eyes met, and for a moment, Alex felt a connection that went beyond their professional discussion. Then his phone buzzed a text from his boss, wondering where he was breaking the spell. "I should get back," he said, reluctantly looking away. "We'll call you when your car's ready." "I'll look forward to it," Fiona replied, her smile lingering as she handed over her keys. As Alex watched her walk away, he couldn't help but wonder if she was talking about more than just her car. Over the next few weeks, Alex found himself thinking about Fiona Gardiner far more often than he cared to admit. After discussing it with Emma, who was ecstatic about the possibility of her dad teaching at her school, he'd called Fiona to accept the position with the STEM program. Their conversations had been primarily professional after that, meetings about curriculum, paperwork, scheduling, but each interaction left him more intrigued by the woman behind the CEO title. What surprised him most was how down-to-earth she was. During a planning session at the school, she'd arrived with coffee for everyone and knew each staff member by name. When a delivery truck got stuck in the muddy field behind the school where they were setting up an outdoor classroom, she'd kicked off her heels and helped push, laughing as mud splattered her expensive pantsuit. Today, Alex was at the school on a Saturday, helping to set up the new makerspace that would house his workshops. Emma was with him, excitedly arranging tools on pegboards while he assembled work tables. "Dad, when is Miss Fiona coming?" Emma asked, carefully lining up screwdrivers by size. "Around noon, Princess. She's bringing the 3D printers and robotics kits." Alex checked his watch, 11:45. "Why, are you excited to see her?" Emma nodded vigorously. "She knows lots of cool stuff, and she smells nice like vanilla cookies." Alex smiled at his daughter's observation. He hadn't noticed Fiona's scent specifically, but there was something warm and inviting about her presence. "She's pretty too," Emma added casually. "Don't you think so, Dad?" Alex nearly dropped the wrench he was holding. Yes, she is," he admitted, feeling suddenly self-conscious. "Is she married?" Emma continued, her innocent questioning now feeling like an interrogation. "No, she's not," Alex replied, remembering a brief mention Fiona had made about a relationship that ended when her ex-partner couldn't handle her dedication to her company. "Why all the questions about Miss Fiona?" Emma shrugged with the exaggerated nonchalance only a 7-year-old could manage. No reason, I just think she likes you. Alex's heart skipped a beat. What makes you say that? She smiles different at you than at other grown-ups. And she laughs at your jokes even when they're not very funny. Hey, Alex protested, though he couldn't help smiling at his daughter's astute observations. It's okay, Dad, Emma said, patting his arm. Mom used to say your jokes were so bad they were good. The mention of Melissa sent a familiar pang through Alex's chest. 3 years after her death from cancer, the grief had softened to a dull ache, but it still caught him unawares sometimes, especially when Emma remembered her mother with such clarity. She did say that, didn't she? Alex said softly, ruffling Emma's hair. The sound of the classroom door opening interrupted the moment. Fiona walked in, followed by 2 men carrying large boxes. Sorry, we're a bit late, she called, her face brightening when she spotted them. Traffic was a nightmare. She was dressed casually today in jeans and a simple blue blouse, her hair tied back in a ponytail, yet she still managed to look effortlessly elegant. Miss Fiona, Emma abandoned her task to rush over. We're organizing the tool wall, want to see? Absolutely, Fiona said, kneeling down to Emma's level. Lead the way, workshop manager. As Emma proudly showed off her organizational system, Alex watched them together, struck by how naturally Fiona interacted with his daughter. There was nothing patronizing in her manner. She spoke to Emma with the same respect she showed adults, listening attentively to every excited explanation. Once the delivery men had unloaded the equipment and left, the 3 of them worked together to unpack and set up the new technology. Emma proved to be an excellent assistant, her small fingers perfect for connecting delicate components, while Alex and Fiona handled the heavier lifting. You're really good at this, Fiona told Emma as they calibrated one of the 3D printers. Have you ever thought about being an engineer when you grow up? Emma considered this seriously. Maybe, or maybe a veterinarian, or an astronaut veterinarian who fixes robots, Fiona laughed. That sounds like an excellent career path. The world definitely needs more astronaut veterinarian robot technicians. Dad says I can be anything I want if I work hard enough, Emma said proudly. Fiona glanced at Alex, her expression soft. Your dad is absolutely right. By mid-afternoon, they'd made significant progress, though there was still much to do. Emma had grown tired and was now curled up on a beanbag in the reading corner, engrossed in a book about space exploration. She's incredible, Fiona said quietly as she and Alex assembled a storage unit. So bright and curious. She's my whole world, Alex replied honestly. Everything I do is for her. It shows, Fiona said. You're raising an amazing human being, Alex. The sincerity in her voice touched him deeply. Thank you, that means a lot. They worked in companionable silence for a few minutes before Fiona spoke again. Emma mentioned her mom earlier. I hope I'm not overstepping, but she passed away 3 years ago, Alex said, the words still difficult to say aloud. Cancer, Emma was 4. I'm so sorry, Fiona said, her hand coming to rest gently on his arm. That must have been incredibly difficult for both of you. Alex nodded, grateful for her directness. Too often, people avoided the subject entirely or smothered him with pity. It was the hardest thing I've ever faced. Some days I still don't know how we're making it through, but somehow we are. You're doing more than just making it through, Fiona said firmly. You're thriving. Anyone can see how well adjusted and happy Emma is, and that's because of you. Their eyes met, and Alex felt that connection again, stronger this time. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to imagine what it might be like to let someone new into their lives, into his heart. The spell was broken by Emma's voice. I'm hungry, Dad. Alex checked his watch, surprised to find it was already past 5. Wow, it's late. We should probably head home for dinner. Actually, Fiona said, looking suddenly uncertain, I was wondering if you both might like to join me for dinner. There's a great pizza place just a few blocks from here. Pizza? Emma exclaimed, fully awake now. Can we, Dad? Please? Alex hesitated, torn between his desire to spend more time with Fiona and his awareness of their vastly different circumstances. We're pretty sweaty and dirty from working all day. So am I, Fiona pointed out, gesturing to a smudge of dust on her blouse. It's just casual pizza, no dress code. Please, Dad, Emma repeated, her eyes wide and hopeful. How could he say no to that face? All right, he conceded. Pizza it is. The relief and happiness in Fiona's expression made Alex's heart beat faster. As they packed up their tools and locked the classroom, he found himself looking forward to the evening ahead with an anticipation he hadn't felt in years. The pizzeria was exactly the kind of place Alex would have chosen himself: unpretentious, family-friendly, with checkered tablecloths and old-school arcade games in the corner. Emma immediately spotted the pinball machine and looked pleadingly at her father. "After we order," Alex promised, guiding her to a booth where Fiona was already seated. The conversation flowed easily as they shared a large pepperoni pizza and salad. Fiona told them stories about growing up in a small town in Oregon, where her father had run the local hardware store and her mother had taught high school science origins that surprised Alex given her current status. "People always assume I was born into money," she said, noticing his expression. "But Gardiner Innovations started in my garage apartment 10 years ago. I was living on ramen noodles and working 18-hour days. How did you go from that to?" Alex gestured vaguely, encompassing her obvious success. "Pure stubbornness," Fiona laughed, "and a lot of luck. I developed an educational software platform that caught the attention of some investors. The company grew from there." She paused, taking a sip of her soda. "But success isn't just about the money, it's about making a difference, which is why the STEM initiative is so important to me." After they finished eating, Fiona insisted on showing Emma how to play pinball, revealing a competitive streak that made Alex laugh. The two of them hunched over the machine, Fiona patiently explaining the timing needed for the perfect shot, while Emma absorbed every word. Watching them together, Alex felt something shift inside him. For 3 years, it had been just him and Emma against the world. He dated occasionally, but never allowed anyone to get close enough to truly enter their lives. With Fiona, though, the walls he'd built seemed to be crumbling effortlessly. It was terrifying. And exhilarating. By the time they left the restaurant, night had fallen. Fiona walked them to their truck, the conversation still flowing as easily as it had all evening. "This was really fun," she said as they reached the vehicle. "Thank you for joining me." "Thank you for the pizza," Alex replied, "and for letting this one beat you at pinball." He nodded toward Emma, who grinned proudly. "I didn't let her win," Fiona protested. "She's a natural. Dad can miss." "Fiona come over for dinner at our house sometime?" Emma asked, the question catching Alex off guard. He looked at Fiona, who seemed equally surprised but pleased by the invitation. "That would be lovely if your dad doesn't mind." All eyes turned to Alex. "Of course," he found himself saying. "We'd love to have you over, maybe next Friday." "Friday works perfectly," Fiona said, her smile warm in the glow of the streetlight. "Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself," Alex replied. Then, gathering his courage, he added, "and maybe come a little early. I could use help chopping vegetables." Fiona's eyes sparkled with understanding. "I'm excellent at chopping vegetables." As they drove home, Emma chattering happily about the day's adventures, Alex couldn't wipe the smile from his face. For the first time in 3 years, he was allowing himself to hope for something beyond just survival, something that felt remarkably like happiness. The next week passed in a blur of activity. The STEM program was launching officially on Monday, and there were still 1,000 details to finalize. Alex found himself at the school every evening after work, often with Emma in tow, putting the finishing touches on the makerspace and preparing for his first workshop. Fiona was there too, her corporate responsibilities seemingly set aside as she threw herself into ensuring the program's success. They worked side by side, their occasional touches and shared glances becoming more frequent and lingering longer. Several times, Alex found himself on the verge of asking her to dinner again, just the two of them, but always hesitated at the last moment. What could he possibly offer someone like her? She lived in a world he could barely comprehend, with resources and opportunities he could never provide. And yet, the way she looked at him sometimes made him wonder if maybe none of that mattered to her. Friday arrived, and Alex left work early to prepare for dinner. He decided on a simple but hearty meal, his mother's recipe for arroz con palo that always impressed, and a fresh salad from their small garden. Emma helped set the table, insisting on using the fancy plates they usually reserved for holidays. "Should we put candles out too?" she asked, arranging napkins with careful precision. "Candles," Alex repeated, stirring the sofrito on the stove. "Why would we need candles?" Emma rolled her eyes with the dramatic flair of a much older child. "Because it's romantic, Dad." Alex nearly dropped his wooden spoon. "Honey, Miss Fiona is coming over as our friend, not for a romantic dinner." "But you like her," Emma stated matter-of-factly, "and she likes you, I can tell." "It's complicated, sweetie," Alex said, trying to find the right words. "Miss Fiona and I come from very different worlds." Emma considered this for a moment. "But you both like robots and teaching kids and pizza with extra cheese. That's a lot of important stuff to have in common." Alex couldn't help but laugh at his daughter's simplistic, yet somehow profound perspective. "You make a good point, but no candles tonight, okay? Let's just enjoy having a friend over for dinner." At precisely 5:30, the doorbell rang. Emma raced to answer it while Alex quickly wiped his hands on a kitchen towel and ran fingers through his hair. "Miss Fiona," Emma's excited voice carried down the hallway. "Dad's making chicken and rice, and it smells really good, and I helped chop the peppers." "That sounds wonderful," came Fiona's warm reply. "And what a beautiful home you have." Alex stepped into the entryway, suddenly seeing their small bungalow through Fiona's eyes. It wasn't much, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, with furniture that was more functional than fashionable, but they'd made it cozy with family photos, Emma's artwork, and plants in every sunny corner. "Hi," he said, suddenly feeling nervous. "Welcome to our home." Fiona was dressed simply in jeans and a green blouse that brought out flecks of emerald in her hazel eyes. She held a bouquet of wildflowers and a bottle of wine. "These are for you both," she said, handing the flowers to Emma, who accepted them with reverent hands. "And this is for later," she added, passing the wine to Alex. Their fingers brushed, and Alex felt that now familiar flutter in his chest. "Thank you. You didn't need to bring anything." "I wanted to," she replied, her eyes holding his for a moment longer than necessary. "Something smells amazing." "Dad's making his special chicken," Emma announced proudly. "He only makes it for special occasions." "Then I'm honored," Fiona said, smiling at Alex. Emma insisted on giving Fiona the grand tour while Alex finished cooking. He could hear them moving through the house, his daughter's excited explanations and Fiona's interested responses. When they reached Emma's room, he heard peals of laughter as Emma presumably showed off her collection of rocks and robot drawings. By the time they returned to the kitchen, dinner was ready. As they sat down to eat, Alex was struck by how natural it felt to have Fiona at their table, listening attentively to Emma's school stories and complimenting his cooking with genuine appreciation. "This is incredible," she said, taking another bite of the arroz con palo. "You never mentioned you were such an accomplished chef." Alex felt a flush of pleasure at the compliment. "My mother taught me. She insisted all her children learn to cook properly." "You have siblings?" Fiona asked, looking genuinely interested. "2 sisters, both older. They live in Chicago with their families." Alex served Emma another scoop of rice. "We try to visit at least once a year." "That's wonderful," Fiona said. "Family is so important. Do you have brothers or sisters, Miss Fiona?" Emma asked. "No, it was just me," Fiona replied. "But I always wanted siblings. That's partly why I love big family dinners like this. I missed out on them growing up." The conversation continued to flow easily through dinner and dessert, a simple apple crisp that Emma had helped prepare. Afterward, Emma begged for a board game, and soon the 3 of them were engaged in an intense game of Monopoly at the kitchen table, their laughter filling the small house. When Emma finally began to yawn, Alex checked the time, surprised to find it was nearly 9 o'clock. "Bedtime, princess," he said gently. "Say good night to Miss Fiona." Emma protested briefly, but was too tired to put up much resistance. She hugged Fiona tightly before allowing Alex to lead her to her room. After the usual bedtime routine, Alex returned to find Fiona washing dishes at the sink, her sleeves rolled up and sudsy water up to her elbows. "You don't have to do that," he protested, hurrying to take over. "I want to help," she insisted. "You cooked an amazing meal." The least I can do is help clean up." They worked side by side, washing and drying in companionable silence. When the last dish was put away, Alex poured 2 glasses of the wine she'd brought, and they moved to the living room, settling on the worn but comfortable sofa. "Thank you for tonight," Fiona said, taking a sip of her wine. "This is the most at home I've felt in. I can't even remember how long." Alex looked at her curiously. "Really, I would have thought that I have glamorous dinner parties every weekend," Fiona finished with a rueful smile. "My life is mostly work, hotel rooms, and takeout eaten at my desk. This," she gestured around the cozy living room, "a real home, a family dinner, a child's laughter, it's what matters. Not the size of your house or the price of your car." Her words loosened something tight in Alex's chest. "I've been telling myself you're out of my league since the day we met," he admitted, the wine and the intimate setting making him braver than usual. "That's someone like you couldn't possibly be interested in someone like me." Fiona set down her glass and turned to face him fully. "And what exactly is someone like me, Alex? Successful," he said simply. "Accomplished, beautiful, out of my reach. Is that how you see me?" she asked softly. "As some untouchable figure on a pedestal?" "No," Alex said, surprising himself with his certainty. "Not anymore. I see you as the woman who gets excited about STEM education and plays pinball with my daughter, who doesn't mind getting muddy helping push a truck or washing dishes after dinner." He paused, gathering courage. "I see you as someone I can't stop thinking about." Fiona's eyes widened, a flush spreading across her cheeks. "I can't stop thinking about you either," she confessed. "From the moment you fixed my car window in that rainstorm, I've been drawn to you. Your kindness, your devotion to Emma, the way you work so hard for what matters to you." She moved closer on the sofa, her hand finding his. "The money, the company, those things aren't who I am, Alex. They're just circumstances, like your job at the garage is a circumstance. What matters is who we are underneath all that." Alex looked down at their intertwined fingers, then back up to her eyes. "And who are we?" "Two people who, against all odds, found each other in a school parking lot on a rainy day," she said with a smile. "Two people who might be very good for each other if they're brave enough to find out." With heart pounding, Alex lifted his free hand to gently touch her cheek. "I want to be brave enough," he whispered. "So do I," Fiona replied, leaning into his touch. When their lips met, it was gentle at first, a question being asked and answered. Then, as Fiona's arms wrapped around his neck, the kiss deepened, becoming something more certain, more passionate. Alex pulled her closer, years of loneliness melting away in the warmth of her embrace. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Fiona rested her forehead against his. "Worth waiting for," she murmured. Alex smiled, feeling more content than he had in years. "Definitely worth waiting for." 3 months later, Alex stood in the doorway of the makerspace, watching as 20 children, Emma included, built simple robots under Fiona's guidance. Her face was animated as she moved from table to table, offering encouragement and asking questions that pushed the students to think more deeply about their designs. The STEM program had been an unqualified success, with attendance growing each week. Alex's own workshops on mechanical engineering were equally popular, giving him a newfound confidence in his abilities as an educator. Principal Ramirez had even mentioned the possibility of expanding his role next semester. But the greatest success, by far, was what had grown between him and Fiona. After their first kiss, they had taken things slowly, mindful of Emma's feelings and the complexity of blending their very different lives. Weekly dinners had become twice weekly, then near daily visits. Fiona had rearranged her work schedule to spend more time in town, and Alex had gradually let go of his insecurities about their different financial situations. What mattered, they had discovered, was how perfectly they complemented each other, his practical knowledge balancing her theoretical understanding, her ambitious vision matching his grounded perspective, their shared values creating a foundation stronger than any difference in bank accounts could undermine. "Earth to Alex," came Fiona's voice, pulling him from his thoughts. She had approached while he was daydreaming and now stood before him with a questioning smile. "You look a million miles away." "Just thinking about how lucky I am," he replied, taking her hand and lacing their fingers together. Who would have thought a jammed car window would change my life? Fiona laughed, the sound still sending warmth through his chest even after months together. Best mechanical failure I've ever experienced. Emma bounded over, her completed robot in hand. Dad, Fiona, look what I made. It can pick up pencils and sort them by color. That's amazing, sweetheart, Alex said, genuinely impressed by his daughter's creation. Absolutely brilliant, Fiona agreed, kneeling to examine the robot more closely. You've really improved the gripping mechanism. Emma beamed at the praise. Can we show Grandma this weekend? She said she wanted to see what I'm making in robot class. Of course, Alex replied. I'm sure she'll love it. As Emma hurried back to her workstation to make final adjustments, Fiona stood and slipped her arm around Alex's waist. Your mother is amazing, by the way. I'm so glad she's coming to visit. She's pretty excited to meet you two, Alex said, though I think she's still in shock that I'm dating a CEO. Former CEO, Fiona corrected with a smile. Current Director of Educational Initiatives, who works remotely 3 days a week, so she can be with the man and little girl she loves. The recent restructuring of her role at Gardiner Innovations had been Fiona's decision, one that had initially concerned Alex until she'd explained how much happier she was with a better work-life balance. She still maintained control of the company, but had delegated day-to-day operations to focus on the educational programs that were her true passion. I still can't believe you made such a big change for us, Alex said softly. For us and for me, Fiona replied. I've never been happier, Alex. This community, this work, you and Emma, it's everything I never knew I was searching for. The bell rang, signaling the end of the workshop. As the children began cleaning up their stations, Alex pulled Fiona slightly aside, suddenly nervous. Speaking of changes, he said, reaching into his pocket, I've been thinking about making another one. Fiona looked at him curiously as he withdrew a small velvet box. Her eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth as she realized what was happening. I know it's only been 3 months, Alex said, his voice low and intense. But when you know, and I know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. It's not fancy, it's perfect, Fiona interrupted, tears welling in her eyes. Absolutely perfect. Fiona Gardiner, Alex continued, his heart pounding, will you marry me? Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes, 1,000 times yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, a cheer erupted from behind them. They turned to find Emma and the entire class watching, their young faces alight with excitement. She said yes. Emma announced triumphantly, rushing forward to hug them both. Surrounded by the children's applause and wrapped in the arms of the 2 people he loved most in the world, Alex marveled at how completely his life had changed in just a few short months. From struggling single father to engaged man with a promising new career path, all because of a jammed car window on a rainy afternoon. As Fiona's lips met his in a joyful kiss, Emma still clinging to them both, Alex knew with absolute certainty that their very different worlds had merged into something better than either could have been alone. A family, built not on wealth or status, but on love, respect, and the courage to reach across divides that only existed in their minds. The rain that had brought them together had washed away not just on that first day, but every day since, revealing the clear, bright future that awaited them all.